Hello, I'm Robert Walker for Doomsday Debunked on Facebook, where we fact check the stories that are scaring people. And do join it if you're either scared or as a fact checker. So this is again about the coronavirus, and we're still getting so many clickbait, scary stories, and just want to tell you a bit what to expect, and still not to be worried. It's not a thing to be worried about at the moment, at all, even if you're in Wuhan. So at the moment it's 132. It might have gone up since I last checked. So first of all, to give you a bit of preparation. So this is you can expect to get many more of these scary stories for the next 2 weeks, and probably the next month, even if it's completely contained, and it's just going to end in a month's time. It's still going to go up. It's bound to. And so I'm doing this to help counteract those stories in advance. So so it's supposed in the end there's 1,000 plus deaths. That wouldn't be too surprising, the way it's going. Then you could imagine you would normally get about 2,000 people in Wuhan die every single day. That's just because it's a city of 11 million. And if you do the numbers, that'd be 82,000 of that would die every year. That's even though China's got quite a high life expectancy. It's been going up a lot. China has good medicine, and if you check out its life expectancy, its progression, then look, it was back in 1960, it was just above 40. And now it's way up there, close to the United States. It's really not far from the United States and Japan. It's got good medicine in China now, and especially bear in mind that includes all the provinces, all the cities, the whole of China. So, but even with good medicine, you can still expect 2,000 a day die if you've got as many as 11 million people and living to 76. So, since the outbreak began, then likely there've been about 12,000, 13,000 people have died in that city, just of many different things. Most often it's things like accidents in your home and traffic accidents, and and various other diseases, heart attacks, cancer, whatever it is. Lots of people dying of many different things, and compare with that 132 deaths total in China. I can double check in a minute. I think it's 133 now. So even if you're living in China, in Wuhan, this is not in any way your most likely cause of death. Not at all. You're far more likely to die. You're probably far more likely to have died of flu in the last couple of months than of this. So do keep it in perspective. This is getting way blown out of proportion. And even in Wuhan, if your effect, so as I said, it's rather minute already, and then it's effectively zero if you take the right precautions, which is to wash your hands frequently and not put your unwashed hands in your mouth, nose or eyes after you touch something possibly infected. And you've got to keep 2 meters away, or that's about 6 feet, from anyone who's coughing and sneezing. And if you do that, then you wouldn't get the flu either. In fact, it'd be rather interesting to know. Maybe this would be a time of year when you're likely to get lots of flu, and it'd be interesting to see if all the precautions actually reduce the number of people who die of flu. It probably will in Wuhan. They might well save many more deaths of flu than they do of this coronavirus. Anyway, there's a good video by a doctor there. He explains it rather well, so you can have a listen to that. So anyway, so now why we can be pretty certain the death's going to go up to hundreds and probably maybe even to 1,000. Suppose that there are no more, that is totally contained, which it obviously is not likely to quite reach that yet. Suppose that, so at the moment they're chasing up 65,537 close contacts. and about nearly 2,000 have been discharged. Another 60,000 are under close observation. So imagine that there was no more contacts. But I mean, suppose if one of these becomes a confirmed case, they would chase all their contacts as well. So that's a very implausible situation. But if you imagine you're stuck amongst all this, and there's no expansion of it at all, except that some of these suspected cases becomes confirmed, and some of these close contact observations become suspected, and so on. Then, well, I mean, first of all, look at this number, the 1,239 in critical condition. So I should tell you what day this is. It is the, so these numbers are going to be out of date. In fact, that's probably one day out of date already. It's the 30th. I think some of this was on Tuesday. And today is, well, I forget which, today is, let's put my clock up. Today is Thursday the 30th. I'm not sure if I can move that into the window. Yeah, just bring it over so you can see it. I'm bringing my clock up just so you can see the time. So this is the time for this video that I'm doing it in UK time. So obviously these numbers are going to change. Anyway, just based on and last time I looked, which was like a day or two, I think it was actually dated for a day ago for those actual numbers. Or might have been 2 days ago. Anyway, 1,239. Here we go. I've got it. I just clicked through, and it's in. It's on the 29th, yesterday. Then there were 1,239 in critical condition. And so now if you go and look at the first 41 cases ever, which we've got all the figures for it, then of those, 13 needed intensive care and 6 died. So if we no surprise at all if 600 of those were to die. We should take our number up to 700 or so, which would be roughly the same as for the SARS outbreak. But then we have 9,000 suspected. Suppose nearly all those were confirmed. And these confirmed cases, then many of those may be at an early stage and only just been infected. And so then some will have nearly finished and will be getting over it, but some will have only just been infected. So some of those are going to end up in critical condition, and then eventually some of those are going to die. About 20% at the moment that they're going to hospital, I think, end up in critical condition, and then a small number of those die. So this is all going to keep on flowing down like that. 132 is suddenly going up to several hundred, and you can see why, based on that number, and it wouldn't be at all surprising if 1,000 or more are going to die in China. And so if you hear, like, so 4 weeks from now, that 1,000 people have died, don't panic, that's just normal. And then if you look at the deaths, there are no deaths yet outside China, these are the, as you can see, these are the first 36 cases, and you can see if you look at the onset of the infection, and the ones we're having outside of China, then they're more or less steady. It's not increasing the amount per day. And then as we take more and more measures, and as they control it in China, we can't really expect this to start going down unless we severely restrict the people coming from China, or they strongly control it in China. Now in China they are having quite a lot of lockdown in China, but then we also have people being evacuated, and the UK has evacuated a fair number of people, and then they would be kept in quarantine, but the people in quarantine in the UK would eventually add to these figures. For instance, these people here, and the total number, whatever it is, they're all in quarantine, So, so now I'm just going to bring up this site. So this site, global cases. Then, if I have a little look at that, we can see what the latest figures are. And then I'll put the link to the debunk in the description, and then you can follow through and find these things. So this is the current situation. So you can look, let's see how many are dead. 170 have now died. Total deaths. So that's no surprise. So I expect that to go up to over 1,000 at some point. It's quite likely. I'm not saying it definitely will, but I'd be rather surprised if it didn't get up to close to 1,000, just based on simple maths, and not, I'm not making a prediction. So I tried to go and see if there were people doing any proper predictions, and they aren't. Well, I didn't find them. They're these predictions based on how it was progressing, and before China did all these containments, and those predictions obviously don't apply anymore because they're based on an unrealistic situation. So, but if it was completely contained, so we don't know how many are now infected, are being infected of the ones who already are. Then we are totally confirmed 7,000, and then so some of those have become confirmed. Now if we look at the ones outside the UK, outside China I mean, this is the number of confirmed cases. So that's 7.7k, that was the number I just looked at. And you can look at that, and these are the ones, you see it's a steady increase. We're having roughly the same number added each day. At the moment we have 105 outside of China. That is not necessarily the total for that day. It can go up a bit more. If they're none, it's just steady. So there's 105 outside China. So of that 105, then we don't really know the death rate. We don't really know the death rate, but that is, if it was, say, 3%, you'd expect 3 of those to die. So don't again expect some deaths outside China. But nearly all of these people, nearly all of those 100 and whatever it was, 109 I think it was it? 105. Nearly all of that 105 are people who caught it in China. So it is not spreading outside China, hardly at all. So far, I only know of one in Vietnam, which is quite early on, and then another one in Germany around now, like yesterday I think, who caught it. Those are the only 2 so far of all these people who have caught it outside of China. And the reason is because we're acting very quickly, and people immediately report a sniffle or fever, and they've been to Wuhan. Then people come out with hazmat suits and take them into hospital and get them tested. And in the UK, we've had quite 73 last I checked. I think it's gone up beyond that. Then these are the people who were tested and shown not to have it, because it's the flu season here in the UK. So, as it is in China, it'd be no wonder that many people who come back from China have flu-like symptoms because they just caught the flu. And so, but then because of all this going on, then they're all going to be tested. So if you hear that someone in your country has been to China is being tested, it doesn't mean at all that they had the virus. It just means they caught the flu, probably in your country. And then, because they caught the flu, but nobody knows for sure yet it is the flu, they have to be tested. And they will be taken away from their house in an ambulance with people in hazmat suits and kept in isolation and tested until the test comes back in a day or 2 days, or very quickly, can be in 4 hours if they do it very quickly. And then they'll be given all clear and said, you just had the flu. And that's happening to dozens of people, many more than that 105 people are being tested, and there's nothing. It's probably in the hundreds around the world who are being tested, going into the hospital, all this stuff carry on going on, and then they hear that they just had the flu. And so people are being very, very careful and cautious with this thing. And that is the reason why it's extremely unlikely that it's going to become an epidemic worldwide, a pandemic. Pandemic means it's not just the cases spread worldwide, but they start becoming new clusters and spreading and expanding in all the countries worldwide, in lots of countries worldwide. At the moment, it does not look like it's going to be a pandemic. Not so far. So that's it. I think that's the main things I want to talk about. And yes, what if we did absolutely nothing? Then this virus only kills maybe 3 or 4%. They don't know. It's very difficult to know because, as we said, you can't just naively say the 5,000 or banana 6,000 over 6,000. You can't naively just take number of confirmed cases, 6.7, and the total number of confirmed cases, 170 deaths out of 7,783 confirmed. You don't just divide that into that and get a percentage, because they're all in progress. And you would need to look at all the people who've recovered or whatever. Oh, by the way, if you one of the things, see, like I'm just rubbing my eye. Apparently, we often touch our faces, and if you are out and about and you want to avoid being infected by either coronavirus or far more likely the flu, then wash your hands before doing that, or just try and keep your hands away. And that is one of the main reasons why it's good to have a face mask and goggles. It's just to stop touching your eyes and touching your mouth. It doesn't actually protect from the virus if it's airborne. It really doesn't do anything for that. No, it's not properly sealed. It's not like so anyway, yeah. So they don't know. They're still trying to work out what the percentage is. You get different numbers like 3%, 4% maybe. So what if we did absolutely nothing? It's certainly a lot less than SARS, which was 10%. And nothing like Ebola, which is 25 to 90%. So, and then once you've got it, then with every virus, and the way it works with any virus disease, is that you get the virus, and then unless they've got a vaccine, then you're just going to get it, and they can't stop you getting it. We now stop these viruses with the flu vaccine or whatever. If you haven't had a vaccine, you get it. Then the next stage is the virus will incubate in your body. It only starts multiplying after, in this case, up to 14 days, 2 to 14 days, with the it's the approximate figures they're giving for this coronavirus at the moment. And it's only once it's finished that period that it starts multiplying in your body a lot, and then it becomes detectable. So you get, and a lot of people don't seem to know this, and you've got these people saying, why don't the doctors I've come back from China, why don't the doctors test me now? And because we've heard that you can infect people if you're symptomless. But the problem is that if they test you, they won't find anything. Not until you start showing symptoms, or if you do get infectious a bit before you start showing symptoms, then they would notice it at that point. So they have been able to detect it, isolate it from someone who didn't have symptoms. But most of the time, you will have to wait until you have symptoms, and you certainly can't rule it out. So if someone comes to you and you say, have I got it, and you test them, and it comes out negative, you can't say that they don't have it unless they've progressed to the stage where they have symptoms. So, and then you can test them and you say, are these symptoms from flu or cold, or are they from the coronavirus? And so what they're doing in order to cope with that, then a lot of places now are saying, well, we're just going to quarantine everyone. So if you have come back from Wuhan, and there's no point in pestering NHS, like there's a Daily Telegraph story, I think, was it Daily Telegraph, was it Daily Mail maybe, I can't remember, saying Daily Telegraph, I think, and it got reproduced, replaced about a mathematician who came back from China, from Wuhan, and he'd been pestering the NHS, so I rang them up and said, can you test me? And they said back, well, wait, don't ask to be tested unless you get a fever or sneeze. And then he obviously told the papers, and they made a big story about this and said people are being let in and not being tested. And he claimed he was a super spreader, that he could have infected lots of people. I mean, if you have been to Wuhan and you want to avoid infecting people, then just keep away from them. That's the way to do it. But you can't know if you're infected until you start getting a sneeze, or unless you bother doctors and they agree to test you like every day or something, because you just won't have it and have it noticeable until you start becoming infectious. At least that's my understanding. If there's anything here that I've misunderstood, please say. That's my understanding of the situation. If there's any mistakes, I'll put it in the comments, and if anybody corrects me, because sadly we can't edit these videos. Anyway, once they're up on YouTube. But anyway, I do, yes, if there's a significant mistake, then I put it's called a poll in YouTube. There's a little information button, click up. If you click on it, then a little drop down will say, correction, whatever it was. It's actually a poll. It'll give like a thing and two other things below it, or three, which is, you can actually click on those and say which of those you like, but they're just different bits of the answer. That's all that YouTube lets us do these days, by way of annotation. They used to be able to let you type things along the bottom. Anyway, so suppose we did absolutely nothing, which we're not doing. No vaccine. They're actually working on a vaccine. They may have it by next summer. Oh, and just say quickly on a vaccine, then some people have already created something that might be a vaccine. That would stop it, that would give us the antibodies. Or that probably would, not for certain, not tested. That's quite easy, that's the easy bit. But the difficult bit is, first of all, testing it to make sure it produces the antibodies, and testing it to make sure it's safe. And they do that on animals first, then eventually they test it on humans. They probably start the animal tests about a month from now, and then they get to humans tests, I'm not sure how long after that, but they're talking about sometime in the summer, then at the earliest, very fast track, then they might have it ready so it could roll out to humans in a preliminary way, and so it'd be ready for next winter if it was seasonal. So anyway, the very worst case, then, suppose nobody did anything about it and they actually are doing lots about it, and they just spread and spread and spread. So if you think about, like, for instance, flu, it came to humans for the first time, probably prehistoric times or whenever it was, and cholera, yellow fever. I mean, so some of these things, say measles, take measles, then that got to humans for the first time, smallpox, any of these, at some point they came to humans for the first time. And so in the process of time, we would get more diseases coming to humans, except we're going to stop them with modern medicine. So suppose this was a new disease and it was just coming and we didn't stop it, then it only kills 3 or 4%, 96% recover. Once you recover, you've got the antibodies. So that's why I was explaining about the virus. So once you've once it's incubated, it starts spreading in your body then notices it and creates these antibodies. And then it's the fight between the two, then you have your fever. And your body kind of heats up as part of its response of fighting the infection. And then you get all these other things going on. The coughing and feeling very tired because your body is fighting. And then you get the things happening in your lungs with this particular disease. You get shortness of breath. Eventually you need oxygen, and then you need a ventilator. And then eventually, I mean, this is not for most people, like the German case, a very recent German case, he got a little bit of bronchial feeling over the weekend, thought nothing of it, and returned to work feeling pretty much fine the next day, only to learn that he had been in contact with a Chinese lady who had been symptomless but got symptoms on the journey back to China, and and then was tested positive for it. And so his boss at work, just sort of got everyone to be tested, and he turned out to have had it. But it was over. So it can be as little as that. It's only 20% or so that becomes quite serious. So anyway, that would mean that he now has all these antibodies in his blood, and he's immune for several years at least. So if you had something like this spread throughout the entire population of the Earth, 7 point so many billion, then millions of course would die in that situation, and that would be a pandemic. And if it became endemic, then it would just be like flu, where several 100,000 people die every year of flu, but most people get through it fine, have antibodies, and they're over it. And then you would have the vaccines, if not be humans around, and we got our medicine. So and then with most things, you're vaccinated against measles as a child, and that's it. But for flu, it keeps mutating, so you would have to keep vaccinating. But coronaviruses, they do mutate, but not nearly as much as flu is. So if they develop this vaccine, it'd be pretty much a permanent vaccine for it. So if it were never contained and we did nothing, and then we would become another endemic virus like measles. And measles, by the way, is eliminated from the Americas. And it's one of the diseases that we do have the possibility of eventually eradicating them from the entire world, like has already happened with smallpox. And several other diseases are on the way. There's polio, which is almost eradicated, just a few cases a year. Anyway, those were the main things I was going to talk about. I'll upload this and hope you feel a little bit better about all this, and just, it's and don't worry about buying things from China in the post, because the coronavirus they expect it to be like all other coronaviruses, that it wouldn't last long outside the human body and outside any animal host, only like a few hours. And there's no way that it's going to last. Experts don't think that it could last all the way from China to here in a parcel. And if you want to be super cautious, you want to be like, if you've got health anxiety, there's no harm in kind of washing whatever it is, or if it's something that's water resistant, then just give it a wipe over with alcohol wipe over with this soapy water. That would get rid of the virus if there was but it shouldn't be necessary, because there's no way they're going to deliver something from China. Maybe in the future with Elon Musk's rockets, you'll have 40 minutes or something delivery from China, but we don't have that at present. So anyway, that's enough. So so if you want to subscribe to this channel, the usual thing, and you can click on the subscribe button, and or like the video if you want to like it. If you liked it, if you've got any comments to say, and ask if you've got any questions to say, and then do consider joining our Doomsday. You might be interested in joining our Doomsday Demon group, either as a fact checker or as someone who's scared. If you do that, please read the rules that are pinned to the top of the group as an announcement, and to give you an idea of how it works. We've developed these rules, and it's the reason why it works as well as it does, so they're quite important. Maybe see you there.